Well, it turns out that somebody let us know what Facebook's internals are regarding what they're going to censor and what they're not, what they're going to suppress, what they're not, and so on and so forth. And this is a real problem. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. This is your Members Only Right Angle brought to us by you, so thank you again. Here's the problem, guys. For many people, Facebook has become the internet. That's where they see the movies, it's where they see the videos, it's where they talk to their friends, they get their news from Facebook. Not from the internet, but from Facebook. And as we were discussing yesterday, Facebook has become the de facto AOL, America Online. For those of us who remember the first days of the internet, you got the internet was a little back room in the back of America Online. Here's why this is important to me. Scott, let's start with you. The internet is the internet, and its power is its lack of regulations. It's the Wild West. There are no rules. There's nothing to stop anybody from lying, cheating, stealing. Once you put a picture up online, it's gone, all of it. Here's the problem. Since Facebook is becoming the internet for so many people, and since Facebook is a private company, unlike the internet, he has, in fact, the right to determine anything he wants to. That's what we believe about ownership. So, what happens when a private company or an individual owns something that is essentially the communication center for maybe 1 billion people?
Usually the federal government breaks it up. I mean, that's
That's a good point.
That's typically what happens.
That's a really good point. I never thought of that. That's an interesting point.
So I'm going to be using texas.facebook.com pretty soon, or whatever they're going to call it. You know, it's a fascinating question because, you know, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg and I'm responsible for this network and I'm getting literally tens of thousands of complaints a day from people who are saying, hey, I just saw some porno over at so-and-so's Facebook page, or hey, somebody's posting some really gruesome pictures over there, or there's a live broadcast going on by a guy who says he's about to kill himself or somebody else. And what do? Do you sit back and say, hey, we just monitor the outside of the pipeline to make sure there are no leaks. We don't care what flows through it. I think you've got some sort of corporate responsibility there. On the other hand, we could vote with our feet. We could say, you know what? Facebook has become such a trash pit. We don't want to be part of it. And I think that's Mark Zuckerberg's fear, that if he doesn't police his own property, that people will say, you know, I'm going back to MySpace. I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't need to put up with this. And in fact, there have been organizations that have started, you know, Faithbook and that kind of thing. You know, what's the YouTube one? It's like GodTube or something like that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, and which, you know, they don't have the critical mass to be able to really launch. But I think right now, as long as you're in the realm of what does a private corporation do to regulate the activities of 1 billion people who are using the thing for free. I mean, that's another thing about it. It's like if you had allowed people to come onto your land and then they began, you know, cavorting in debauchery. Do you have a right to kick them off your land after you've been profiting from their presence there and they haven't paid a penny for it? I think it's a complicated question that I hope the government doesn't try to answer, and it'll be fascinating to see what the market does to this.
That's a great point, Scott. In fact, Steve, that's kind of where I would like to go with this. Facebook is as successful as it is because essentially it's the Disneyland of the internet, right? It is a place where you're not going to see pornography. It is a place where you're not going to see all these gruesome images or all of this lewdness. That is why it's so powerful. It's powerful because it's relatively clean. In fact, it's really quite relatively clean when you get into things like the dark net and all the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
So my understanding from the article was that the Facebook screeners or censors, whatever you want to call them, it's the same thing here.
Moderators, I think they're called.
Okay, moderators. The Facebook censors are so overworked that they say that now most of them have maybe 10 seconds or less to make a decision, not only on a picture but on the entire page of a person. Is that a problem? Is it? We can look. You know, we can all agree. Well, I don't remember who said it was regarding pornography. He says, "I can't describe it to you, but I know it when I see it."
Yeah.
So the fact that individual people, fairly low-level people, have the ability to say yes or no to your things, do you think that has a chilling effect politically as well?
Well, it might, although let me start off by saying that as conservatives or libertarian leaning conservatives, whatever you want to call the three of us, we are well aware that not every problem has a solution, certainly not political solutions.
Yeah.
Let's try and have our base there. I also want to correct a number. We say 1 billion users. I think the last Facebook figure I heard was 1.6 billion users. So if Facebook were a country, it would be, 20% more populous than China. It's just massive, undescribably massive. And you made the point about AOL, which is interesting, because back in the mid-90s, I was a frequent visitor to a local Colorado-based chat room, which could host, I think, like 23 people at a time max, and we got kind of close knit. And we would go out on Tuesday nights to various bars and hang out. We knew each other pretty well. That said, the actual chat room itself was a hot mess of the gossip and lies and who's seeing who and all the rest. Now multiply that to 1.6 billion people. And I have to tell you, the idea of trying to police that, number one, it's impossible. But what we have to go back to, I think, is Dr. Ian Malcolm, I think that's his name, from Jurassic Park, who said, your scientists were so busy asking if they could, they never stopped to ask whether or not they should. And that's Facebook, just completely amoral. It used to be if you wanted to see the dark stuff on the internet, it was there for you. Go to, if you want to see beheading videos from Saudi Arabia or whatever, you go to LiveLeak or even some darker sites than that I'm not going to mention on a family network. And it was there for anybody who wanted it. But it wasn't in your face on a timeline that you're just scrolling through. And this idea that just because we have the networking ability to connect 1.6 billion people immediately and with very little discretion doesn't mean that we should.
Well said also. Well, this is the problem, right? We all know that this is private property. We believe in private property. We understand that when we use this product, we sign a service agreement, which all of us have read extremely carefully, certainly I do. Because just clicking on the box would be, irresponsible.
Oh, yeah.
So we're in kind of a dilemma here. On one hand, we understand that it is private property. Jeff Zuckerberg can do whatever he wants with his private property. And as a general rule, he's provided an unbelievable service for people. I remember when classmates.com wanted to charge me $40 to find out, who was in my graduating class. So it's changed the world. Yeah. So on one hand, it's free enterprise, and we're happy about that. On the other hand, it is controlling huge sections of our society. And especially worrisome to me is they're controlling them in ways that we can't see. If everybody had an AT&T telephone, it was a monopoly, but at least everybody knew it was a Bell telephone. We have had reliable reports, certainly anecdotal reports as well, of Facebook algorithms, the mathematics that determine how much play a video gets or how wide a page goes, are slanted against conservatives. And so where do you go with that? Where do you go? It's slanted against conservatives. There's 1 billion people on there. They don't even know it's slanted against conservatives. That's not right. We don't like that. But it's his property, and if we don't like it, we can take our money and go home. So it's tough. Scott's point about breaking this thing up as a monopoly is a great example of why this is a particularly interesting problem, because this issue is an issue that sits right on the cusp of us being a second wave industrial society and a third wave information society. If one company is manufacturing all the cars, you can break them up into smaller companies, and that's a solution. Whether it's moral or not, it's a solution. But the entire product that Facebook is selling is connectivity. That's what they're selling. They're selling connectivity. You cannot disconnect parts of this and have it survive in any meaningful way. So what do? I haven't got the slightest idea. I think in all of this, ultimately, the one thing that I try to keep in mind is if I don't like the way he's running Facebook, I can leave, and it's none of my business. To the degree that we can influence him, great. But we got to be true to our principles here, and those are our principles. I'm on his private property, basically for free, and I have to play by his house rules, and if I don't like it, I can go launch my own Facebook. which is somewhat smaller than Zuckerberg's at this particular point, but I'm hopeful. So that's your members only right angle out there, members of this little Facebook community of ours, and who I say it quite frequently, but who I just want to say again to our members: the reach that you provide, the number of people have come up to me or Scott or Steve and just said, hey, we really love your work. The guy came to do our pesticide, came around the house. He's going to spray for bugs, and he's signing the thing. I wasn't even there. My fiance looks and writes my name down. He says, that Bill? I said, yeah. Oh, my God. So all of this happens not because of me or Steve or Scott. It happens because of you. You provide us with the resources, and I don't know where we're going in this brave new world, but I do know wherever we're going, we're not going to get there we're not going to become ingrates. We're going to remember every day, I think, the fact that you're parting with hard-earned money in order to keep us going and in order to reach a much, much bigger audience. So once again, we're very thankful for that, and we will see you next week.